Hello and welcome to My Security TV and our Tech and Sec Weekly. My name's Chris Cubbage. I'm the Executive Editor with My Security Media. We're the official media partners to the Australian Cyber Week 2022 with AustCyber and the Stone and Chalk Group. There are events across the country, Melbourne, Sydney, Adelaide and in Perth. We've done a series of interviews with the special guests and special partners throughout the week. Each has a unique call to action. So without further ado, here's our special guest. Jason Murrell, welcome to My Security TV and our Tech and Sec Weekly.
Always good to be with you.
Pleasure.
It has been a long time. You said not long enough, but yeah.
We always have a good chat when we do catch up. Group Executive for AustCyber, you've joined the Stone and Chalk Group.
Yep.
Maybe just what your role is going to be. I could guess, but best.
Yeah, no, I'd like to hit your guess, and then I'll just fill in any gaps. But
no, better off you answer this.
Okay. That's all right, mate. So Stone and Chalk and AustCyber merged for about 18 months ago now. So Stone and Chalk came together. I think it adds a lot more to the company. So AustCyber as its own entity inside that is still does the same thing, to grow cyber businesses here, to educate and to export. So so from all those pieces of the puzzle, they don't change. What our outcomes are. From a advantage point of view that I see is that previously where just say AustCyber by itself was about 15 staff, you've now got over 70 staff that are there. So it adds a lot more to the ecosystem. And as you know, Chris, I've done 3 cyber startups I've been involved in prior to coming into the role. So from CyberAware and 6 Clicks and CyberHive, so all of those pieces of the puzzle gave me a good look at what it's like to be on that side of the equation. Yeah. And I think, one of the things where, and it's not AustCyber's fault, it's pretty hard to get a whole ecosystem set up around that when they've got all the other remit to do as well. But, from having Stone and Chalk, which is really from nose to tail on how you get a startup going, from an accelerator program into startup, into scale up, and then with advisory services and everything there at the end and all the VC network and everything, that's the perfect fit for that. And on the flip side also, obviously, you've got the capability there for having startups starting with cybersecurity as its core. So when startups, no matter if they're in fintech or whatever other area they're in the Stone and Chalk network for, we'll make sure that they have cybersecurity embedded in the business, right from the start. So that's not something they have to bolt on later on or think about, because as you know, a lot of startups start up and they take off doing their idea or their business, and then they sort of get halfway through the process, or a VC says, let's have a look at your cybersecurity, just to tick that off before we put the money in, and they fall a bit short, so we want to make sure that's there. From the education piece, we want to look at obviously educating kids earlier, so getting into schools with programs, so that, these days, as you know, mate, there's kids getting access to, devices very young, in single digits, obviously, but there's no, password teaching. There's nothing about multi-factor. They just go on there and they just do their thing, sort of thing, So we want to sort of keep that going. On the upper end of the scale, also from education, we want to make sure that, and we've brought all parties together, whether that be universities, TAFEs, all the industry bodies here in Australia into one tent to talk about how we can do a program where, as a cyber professional, where you are, what your qualifications count for, and have that in a lot more sort of aligned way across all metrics, so that people then can go study and then they'll know where their skill sets get a fit in the market, and also for employers that's better as well. And with the startup part, obviously exporting Australian businesses to the rest of the world, often times they've had to go overseas to go and get a name for themselves and then come back and sell here in Australia. It's sort of been a bit the sort of wrong way around. So we want to try and help it so that Australian businesses here can get a bit of foothold here in the market, and then pick where's best for them to go overseas, whether that be, APAC region, the US, UK, Canada, whatever the case may be, and help them, better get connected with the right people overseas as well.
It looks like you've got a key leadership role for AustCyber, and you can sort of guide it there, as you say, within the Stone and Chalk Group. That brings us to AustCyber Week and the Australian Cyber Week 2022. You sort of, something I raised with Michael Bromley, the CEO, was it's a bit different this year, but Stone and Chalk does have a footprint across the country, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide and Perth. Maybe introduce us to some of the key parts of the program that you're involved with.
Yeah, well, look, I'm pretty much there all week. So we start off in Melbourne. So yeah, okay, I'll be on a plane a bit. I think, I'll probably need a good rest at the end of the week. But yeah, in Melbourne we start obviously with Claire O'Neill opening up the event. We have some hypotheticals in there. The Australian Women's Security Network will be involved in the Melbourne event too. So a big day there. All the sessions, I think, I know for a fact the first part's sold out in a physical sense. So we've got both the ability for people to physically attend the events, but also live streaming of all the events too. So if you register for the live streaming, obviously you'll get to see it at live, but also you can get the recordings of any of the sections as well. So on Tuesday, we head up to Sydney. So we've got another full day up in Sydney. There we do go. So there is a startup hub up there in Wynyard in Sydney. So yeah, the first one is Stone and Chalk, Melbourne, 121 King Street. We go to Wynyard. Then we head over to Perth for a breakfast in Joondalup. So we'll be in Perth there. There's about 200 capacity. I think there's still tickets available for that one. So best to be, if you can get in there and get a free breakfast, why not? So if you're in WA, get involved over there. We then go to Adelaide. So we'll do a day in Adelaide, and then we end up over in Canberra to finish off. So and we'll actually do a hackathon and all that sort of stuff in the Canberra event with Linda Kavanagh, who I believe you've spoken to as well. So yeah, so it's jam packed full of events. Hit the calendar because there's a lot of events and multiple ones. There's others happening in Melbourne on the Wednesday with Cinch, with Susie Jones and the crew there as well. So there's plenty of events. So hit up our website for Cyber Week, which I'm sure you'll share.
Well, look, we'll focus on Cyber Week. We're doing a range of different interviews as well with each part of those, including the Australian Women in Security Network and Linda Kavanagh of Cyber Merc for the hackathon. And I mentioned we've spoken to Michael, the CEO. So, Jason, look, it's great to have you on. I think one call to action might be, what's your highlight or a key call to action other than to register? What do you outlook for the rest of the year as well?
Yeah, I think the Sector Competitiveness Plan comes out, so we're releasing that on Monday as well. So make sure people download that because it's got a lot of key information about the market as we sit. We're going to be about probably 3,000 short of where we need to be, with regard to finding cyber professionals in there. Obviously, the rate of crime's going up, and not just because of the Optus and Medibank stuff. That's obviously going to add more fuel to the fire. But we just need to get I think the main message we need to get out there is to help try and get as many Australians protected as possible. Keep talking more about the solutions and the problems. Everyone keeps talking about the hacks, but what can people do? And let's make the messaging a lot simpler. Myself, as I've spoken to you about before, we need a slap campaign for cybersecurity, whether it be, password manager, multi-factor authentication updates when available, all free things to do, but they're things that at a basic level people could do, to sort of try and get something started. So I think, the whole thing, and I love your program, and it's always been great for getting the word out there, that we just need to get more positive messaging out there and some more basic stuff that people can do, especially the younger people and the people who are a lot older who've sort of missed this, real computer age, so to speak, and just make sure that we really assist all Australians to make sure they don't get caught up in too much damage when these cyber incidents happen.
Great. Well, look, as you say, a positive message, there's nothing wrong with that. And if anyone is going to come out with a positive message, it's Jason Murrell, the Group Executive for AustCyber with Stone and Chalk Group. So, Jason, thanks for joining us.
Chris, thanks, mate. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure, despite what else we say.
That's right. Thanks, buddy. Bye.